Good evening, everyone. System Chalk here with the fourth episode of our first YouTube run through the House of Light DLC. And it's been a little while since the previous video that I recorded for myself, but this was partly just because I wanted to try and work out where I want to go with this run. And I think I've got a pretty good idea in terms of where we can go. Now, I've tried as much as I can to have the videos be a reflection of how I'm playing the game at the time. This has its pluses and minuses. Obviously, it's not perfect for YouTube, long introductions like this being one of them. But I think it's kind of still consistent. I know some people do like to learn the game through watching these, and so what I don't want to do is spend, the worst thing that I could do, I think, would be to just plan out the whole playthrough at the beginning, accounting for the randomness of the books, and then just simply implement that. I figure, especially given how long it took the previous one, that would not be very interesting for me, and I think it would probably ring rather hollow for the audience as well. But I did want to just try and take an idea. I have a couple of ideas in terms of where I'm going with the playthrough, but because one of the things I want to try and do is take advantage of salons as quickly as I can, I have that tension that I talked about before, which is what languages can I realistically get versus which ones, what are the blockers to the Tree of Wisdoms and what are the ones I think I can realistically get. So, we've got a few. I know Fraser Strathcoyne at least gives us Ramsund. Arthur Moore gives us either Hyksos or Sabazine, and I'm slightly leaning towards Sabazine on this one. And then I'm pretty sure Serena gives us a language, but I don't recall which one. Douglas Moore knows Greek, and Hokabald Posend, as much as I would love to bring him along, only knows... he's only available using an Incastum Terminale, which we certainly don't have. So taking a look at my Tree of Wisdoms, the fact of the matter is, for me to make any progress on the tree, I have to have the way I've set it up at least, I have to have a language. This doesn't mean that in your own playthroughs that you have to have a language, but the way that I've sort of worked it out here, one of the things that I wanted to do counter to the previous playthrough is I really do want to take the lessons all the way up to 9, and if I can, as like a final sort of a flourish at the end, if I can not only take them all to 9, but if I can like make my elements of the soul sort of super elements of the soul as a result of doing that. I think I have a realistic shot of doing so. And but that, like I said, I don't want to have too rigid of a view in terms of how the game is going to work. So I have a few sort of, how do I put it, kind of a little more free-form choices in terms of how I go through the Tree of Wisdoms. But again, for all of those to be unlocked, I would need that initial language, just the way that I'm handling it. So a few examples that I'm thinking of here: Horomachistery, Illumination, Skolakosophy, Preservation, Bosk. All of these are ones where I feel like I have a certain degree of flexibility just based on some of the skills that I think I can use in different slots. And so what I want to be thinking of here is like, what are the languages that I want in order to unlock them? So for instance, if I want to unlock Preservation, I normally put Ramsund in that one. So inviting Fraser over, even though he takes quite a bit of scale, I think would actually be a good call. And I can, there's similar arguments that I can make. But before we go too much further, let's pass over the day. I do want to get my invitations written reasonably soon if I'm going to do that. But it's also kind of worth reflecting on the fact that once I get these written, I will have a few other choices to make just in terms of, well, what do I do with them, right? It's all well and good for me to put something in, Illumination or Hushery. But in the case of Hushery, I actually think with Hushery, because of the way Nyctodromy is set up, I probably wouldn't use that until level 5 anyway. Oh, did I pause? So again, like I said, it's a little freeform, but in this case here, I think we're at a point where I should start making an effort to at least bring people into the house. And of course, there'll also be the question of what inks I use to do that, because I don't have sort of full access to everything. But I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. This will complete once dawn has come. So I think some of this may rest on what weather we have, although I guess there wouldn't be any scale weather. So maybe before I go too much further, I think I said that our big option right now would be to use a miner to open up another room. So let's just take a look and see whether or not that's possible. So if we do a miner, that's 2 scale as a base, so we'd also use our health there. So we take 1, so that's a total of 3. Then the hourglass, that's another 1, so that brings them up to 4. We'd use the fear, so that's another 2, so that brings it up to 6. And so we're looking for the remaining 2. So the options that we have there are food and drink. When it comes to scale, under the drinks, I think we said that Schloss Jannings was an option. I'm not going to use the cuckoo honey. That's a little extreme. And I guess the question would be, am I comfortable using the egg? And in general, I think the answer to that is yes. Although, you know, it'd be nice if I could find some other source of scale. Yeah, Domaine Reveline, still 1 scale. Skinshuck meat is too much. Serpent milk doesn't work either. Yeah, so I may whine about it, but the fact of the matter is the wine or the coffee really is going to be what makes this work for us. So, if we have a glass of domain, actually, we don't have Domaine Reveline. That's the last one right now. So I guess we'll pour the Schloss Jannings. But yeah, serve appropriately. Pour out. We will hire the worker right away. The Sweet Bones has been the public house in Brandkrug since Cromwell's time. Its history is notable, its beer is not. Guests looking for discreet employment or for discreet assistance congregate in the snug. Assistance from a miner. In spring, the local miners often travel to the Feast of Lights below. If one breaks his journey for the Sweet Bones, a shilling will buy his labor for a day. Miners offer a scale, forge, and a little moon. Alternatively, add a soul card to find rarer guests who might be seeking employment. Now, another thing that I've forgotten about, so I believe we have Denzel who will help us. But I don't think we haven't opened up the rectory. We have opened up Mr. and Mrs. Kill, which is funny because we don't actually have anything that can open that up, it would seem. But that's fine. I'm not gonna question it. Okay, so it may be an idea to try and bring Reverend Timothy into the mix at some point. We do have the Shapt to be able to talk with him. I do also have the option of talking with Denzel. So Denzel brings us both Forge and Edge to our work. Unfortunately, I don't think that really helps. Well, I mean, there's the Edge. So maybe the Dim Hall. Maybe the Silvered Snares. But yeah, our best bet right now is to worry about the creeper-crowded descent. Now, we also want to write a letter. So again, in thinking of the people who can give me languages, that's both Fraser and Serena, and we want to bring them. Oh, sorry, actually, it's all 3. So I think what I will do. This is one of the more valuable inks for bringing in Mr. Strathcoin, so let's make sure we have what it takes. Oh, right, I think I was going to use the... I believe I was actually also going to use a memory with that, because I don't think I have what it takes. Oh, no, Pentament's precursors? No, I still need a memory. Well, that's a pity. I definitely don't want to use the... I definitely don't want to use an element of the soul for that. Memory maybe, but... Okay, so let's leave that aside. Serena Blackwood needs 3 forge, and I believe we just use bells and braziers with that. So the question is, do I have an ink that I'm willing to give up for that? Because I definitely can't use the Peribiot if that's going to be how I get Mr. Strathcoyne in. Now this is the real shame here, right? The Perunculate is pretty valuable. If I have to use the Stargall, I will. Looks like Catwink and Stargall are my 2 options here. So let's again, we don't want to hold up learning opportunities, so we will write the invitation. Take bells and braziers. Maybe we'll hold off on the Catwink there. So yeah, a little bit of a shame to use the inks this early, but I think it's for a good cause. So I have enough here to craft a letter inviting Serena to Bradkrug. Now, one of the things I may want to consider through this process is that I may want to try and get some lessons that lessons or just double check here. Okay. I may want to be focusing on getting some things that will allow me to write or to make more inks. All right. So one example of this would be getting the weaving and knot working as one of many examples. And again, we'll see how the day goes. I have a few other options in terms of tasks, but I think again I want to see what I can get with Denzil before I commit too much to some other stuff. Okay, a rainy day. In spring, the local miners often travel to the Feast of Lights below. If one breaks his journey for the sweet bones, a shilling will buy his labor for a day. Miners offer scale, forge, and a little moon. Alternatively, add a soul card to find rarer guests who might be seeking employment. Thus, they more or less ruled themselves with the help of their wild Celtic temperament, made wilder by the hardness of their lives and the truly ghastly conditions under which they worked. With all this, it is not to be wondered that the Tinners acquired the reputation of being scarcely human, but it must be remembered that among them at all times were those whose characters could stand comparison with the best of men. L. Russell Muirhead. So we already had the plan in place. I'm going to use the health right away because that's something I can recover with a glass of water if I need. Now that we have rain, one thing we will want to take a look at is just to see if there's an opportunity to read something with nectar, and indeed there is. Now, unfortunately, there's no nectar desk, so that creates a little bit more of a complication. So I've got spices and savors, which is good for 3. Actually, yeah, this is the real shame. So if I had been a little more patient with my health, I could have taken Honey, a Comprehensive Guide. I could have added Spices and Savors, and then I add my health for the final point. So that's fine, because in 30 seconds, that just means we'll use the Sweet Bones to recover the health. And that's that. That's the rain spoken for. So the next question would be, knowing what I know now, is there any claim that I can make in terms of being able to read any of these other ones? So if I want to read the Rose of Hypatia, there's going to be a few things that I need to line up in my favor. So first of all, we need to find something that either uses a moth or has a reasonable claim to being able to combine the different things that I need. So for instance, here the reading room might be a candidate because that'll take the moon. And then the question is there a remaining moth skill that gives me what I need? And it's tempting because there's Transformations and Liberations in Edict's Liminal, but unfortunately Edict's Liminal has the knock requirement. So we'd really need a knock and moon to do the trick here. And unfortunately, we have the starts of a few of these pieces, but we don't have kind of that last step. So, and this kind of matters here because if we take two moth with Edict's Liminal, well, that gets us up to 6. That's a good start. Sorry, that gets us up to 4. We can get up to 6 with a memory. So, right, that's pretty encouraging to get the soul, the skill, and the memory lined up. But at that point, we're sort of stuck. We need to figure out either how do we get an ink with the appropriate moth, how do we add the shears, which of course we would get opening up the second floor. We're just coming up a bit short in terms of what we need. So I think I'm just going to have to accept the loss there. Okay. So, and that's a bit of a shame too, because weaving and not working would actually be something that potentially could get me an ink. The rest of this, Crossing to Noon is a moon text. So again, we do have some possibilities here with rhyme and remembrance, but I'm not really counting on a lot of this. Oops. So unless I can find something with a big... I think really the big edge and the big winter is what I'm looking for. And in the end, probably the edge is the more attractive of the two just because of the skill. So yeah, we're really kind of at the mercy of weather right now. Although I am a little curious why I'm not pursuing the Orchid Transfigurations of Feast. I guess because I didn't really have any Grail skills. But I see this changing in the near future. I'd almost be tempted to try and read it with the rain, but I think we've got a good thing going with the honey book. So, and I believe that gives us insects and nectars. Yeah. Although again, I should be thinking about how I want to spend the day. So we're leaving the Sweet Bones open because I want to get my health back. I could bring in Denzel to generate a bunch of memories, but we can do that with the miner as well. So it seems a bit of a shame not to be using these elements of the soul. So now we'll just need to post it. All right. Now let's, again, I want to try and take advantage of language lessons. Well, okay, that's all well and good for me to want to take advantage of language lessons, but it does actually take a while for the lesson to go through. So let's invite Serena Blackwood right away. Patience, thus the snow awaits the fall. Sorry, thus the mountain awaits the fall of the snow. Thus Monday awaits the death of the weekend. Thus the postmistress waits for me to purchase the necessary stamp. Stamp, envelope, send. Okay, so again, the health is spoken for, but that doesn't mean that we can't write other invitations. So Arthur Moore. Ah, yes, as always, I need an ink. I thought I was going to get clever and just add the mirror scope, but that's not actually possible here. Yeah, so it may turn out we can't invite Arthur Moore for want of a good lantern ink. I'm not going to use the Ashertine just because that's actually quite a valuable ink. I'm not opposed to using the inks, I want to make sure that I'm using them on things that matter. So I think this will be a case where I wait for a memory. And again, that's fine. I just need to make sure that I'm making the most of the time. So I'm going to do a little exploration. Ooh. I've actually already closed off a lot of my options here. Okay, so if we take the Tryst, then we can add the Pentiments and Precursors. We can add the Rain. But the question now is, do I have a Grail? Well, this gives me some Grail. Okay, so we get a Beguiling Melody out of that. Let's maybe keep our focus on... Well, we only have one Grail, so I think that's that. I could look for Nectar. Now that's a little more tricky just because of the... I'd really need my health back to do the most of that. Okay, so we'll leave Nectar aside, but we should be able to do some things with Scale. Or I would if I didn't take it up. Okay, well, Ava's Desk gives me a little bit of an out there. So this one, Perinculate, will probably be able to give me a hand here. All right, so we've got Bisclavre's Knot. I think the 4 is as good as I'm going to get. Now, with the wolf stories, okay, or not. Oh, and furs and feathers doesn't work. In this case, I don't think we have any souls that will accept that one. Okay. So unless I can find... Well, Sky works here. But the... Alright, there we go. So the Shapt, the furs and feathers, the fear... I don't know what I thought I would get different this time. Okay, so there's at least some basics in terms of learning. Now, the important thing that we wanted in terms of getting a an ink we don't have yet. So that's one of the first things that we're sort of pursuing. Now, we do have inks of containment. I'm going to need to find an appropriate desk for that. We may not have even checked. Yeah, so if we get sufficient nectar or sufficient sky... Wish I had a moon to test this with. Nectar's probably the trickiest. Actually, we're really not equipped to get any of these. So yeah, we have inks of containment, but we really don't have what we need to be able to get what we need out of that. Okay. So I can take a chance maybe with some edge. Okay, so we found out how to make a winning move. Levitic Tincture. And Torg's Cleansing. Not bad to have, just not the most exciting that we can go with. Okay, and I think the last thing that I can try would be something with Moth. Now I know we just tried that recently. So we've got Transformations and Liberations sitting down there. So if I can combine Forge and Moon at something. I don't really think I have Forge and Moon though, right? This definitely becomes a much higher priority. Okay, what about Rose and Knock? Well, Knock should be something I can explore. I don't know about Knock inks, but I feel like we can at least take a peek at what's on offer. I'm just trying to think, is there anything I would want? If sometimes we have something like a Chronsicord, which we could use as a test dummy, but unfortunately, those are not an early game item. And this tends to come up a lot. It's a key and it's a thing. It's not a tool. Although arguably the most useful item in the game. This came up on the subreddit. People asking what the most useful item is, and it is obviously the Hush House key, because I do not believe you can make any progress in the house without it. Okay, so no tools, no inks to push this ahead, but we're still at 4, so we should still see some kind of result. Okay, so a secret threshold, an amethyst ampule. That's good to know. And surgeries and exsanguinations. Okay, lots of amethyst ampules. Not the worst news, but maybe not the most exciting either. And unless we have Fet, I don't think there's a whole lot that we can expect in terms of Rose. In fact, I don't even know if we have a Rose skill. Maybe Sky Stories? Yeah, so we'd bring... I don't know, we could bring Sky Stories and the Lunar Glow. Well, even then I would have to have... You know, it did just occur to me that with these inks I should actually be setting my sights higher. So I'm sorry to spend so much time doing this. I think my curiosity is satisfied for now. Did Serena receive my invitation? So we are under the gun here, right? We're going to want to talk with Serena Blackwood. We're also going to want to talk with our hireling. So we'll work alongside each other. But I don't see these as incompatible, so I can discuss a memory with my assistant. This will use up the memory but boost the assistant's abilities for the rest of the day. So we will head to the Sweet Bones. Pay a tuppence. It is spring, and the landlady has served me a slice of her stargazy pie, with the pilchard heads poking cheekily through the hot crust. Now, it seems to me like we don't have anything else to do but use our tryst at Crowcross Sands. So we'll commit to that. And then for the more, unfortunately, our heart and scale are spoken for. So unless I can come up with something clever to do with my knock. Memories don't last long outside books, but it's made a difference for the day. All right, let's give you the hourglass. I can lend my assistant something to help, increasing their abilities. So what I would probably want to do here with my Shapt is to try and find something that I can combine. So Ragged Crossroads is a good example of this. If we add that, now if we had a saw, like so, now I get sort of a free libidic tincture. What does that get me? Well, right now, not really anything. I actually think we have some of it here. This is just a material. We would presumably be using that in the foundry to maybe make something bigger. And you can see how, you know, if I had, say, a contradiction, I could add that under metal. Oh, actually, you know what? I can't even put it under material. That would have to be in the glassware, I suppose. So yeah, there I would need to be adding it. I could still add it to Ragged Crossroads. So that would be bringing it up to 6. We could bring it up to 8 with the memory, and then 9 with my soul. So if we found some kind of a liquid or a fuel with edge, that would take us up to the 10. So yeah, that's not basically the illustration that I want to make on that is it has its uses. What I'm really looking for right now, though, is just some easy wins that I can get with something like the bells and the braziers and such. I am curious. I know if we have the organ, we would be able to use bells and braziers. It's a bitter black salts. Now we should already have some of those. If not, that's actually... Okay, so what I'm detecting here, just taking a look at the different sort of actions I can potentially take, it does actually look like some of these intermediate items that'll be helpful early on are sort of within my grasp. So I think what I will do, as silly as it seems, I'm actually going to use the saw and the Ragged Crossroads to get a libidic tincture. I may even go so far as to use the metal to get something as well, but we'll wait on that just because I can also make some money. But the real race now is just to try and get the miner at the level that I need as soon as possible. Dr. Serena Blackwood, one-time librarian of Hush House, one-time librarian of the Invisible Serapeum in Alexandria, and currently what exactly? Serena is close-mouthed, but I know that she has worked with St. Ronwin Trust. Okay, now one thing I want to start doing is keep a note of people's food preferences. So, prefers forge, food, and drink. She knows Fusine, Latin, Aramaic, Frisian, Greek. Okay. So, of course, I have the option of bringing over Denzil and just hosting a salon right now, but the drawback would be that I don't have something to commit to the Tree of Wisdoms, and that is the reason why I'm inviting Serena Blackwood. So we'll wait because we still need to level up the miner, but we're on our way. And then in 10 seconds, we'll start reading Honey. Better now. All right. So first things first, let's consider the book. Oh, now that's interesting. Oh, no, it's 6. Okay, I'm not losing my mind. I can master this mystery. Enough nectar to match mystery nectar. So, at this point, I think I can make a little bit of money at the Sweet Bones. Ideally, we'll still cycle this through so that my shop gets used to make something today. But the interesting question now is there anything interesting that I can be doing with my metal right now, or would it be better for me to do something like make the bitter black salts? I would, under normal circumstances, like to talk to the chickens to try and get a replacement egg. But I think in this case here, we're going to be using the talk verb quite a bit today. So in this case, let's just take a look at my options. We've got bitter black salts with bells and braziers. I'm also curious what pyroglyphics will do. Westcott's compounds. You know, I'm a little more curious about these. I almost never use them, but again, we're at an early point where it's actually helpful for me to have a few of these things in my inventory. Okay, so we need to get this person up to level 8. So first of all, we'll give them an egg. I can offer my assistant something to eat. This will increase their aspects. It's also just friendly. If I can, I would like to try and read the Rose of Hypatia using the occult scrap. And this is because that will give me an excuse to add Douglas to the roster. But again, if I don't have anything to make inks with, it may not be as interesting of a choice. As it clarifies, the tincture vibrates judderingly. This is called growling. So 1 lantern, 1 edge, and I think I'm going to take the one from the kitchen. I'm going to try and be a little more organized in terms of materials today. Okay, one more round with the miner. Schloss Jannings, a dry aromatic white wine. A nice drop. I can offer my assistant something to drink. This will increase their aspects. They'll also be glad of the refreshment. And then we start our language lesson with Dr. Serena Blackwood. Alright, so this is a bit of a shame. Or, no, actually, well, yeah, it's either or, really. So the mackerel gave us, would have given us 1 scale. That would have saved us the, using up the egg. But we will find other uses for mackerel, so I'm not too upset. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. So we'll just take the opportunity to restore the shaft. It is spring. The landlady has served me a slice of her stargazy pie with the pilchard heads poking cheekily through the hot crust. That'll at least take us to the 1 minute mark of the day, and at that point I can decide whether or not there's anything that I can do with my shaft that's interesting. Okay, Westcott's compounds, reagents and activants to enhance alchemical operations or the flavor of one's pipe tobacco. 2 forge, 1 grail, 1 lantern, 1 moth, 1 nectar. So not, you know, this isn't going to make the difference for everything, but what we really want to take a look at is any place that will accept a material, which I actually think might just be... Oh, no, the necropsy table as well. That's good to know. But again, because I'm taking a slightly different approach this time around, it is actually helpful for me to not just take it for granted that I have access to certain things, but to actually check and say, okay, you know, these are useless to me if I just keep them on the shelves. How can I put them towards an interesting end? Down to the Grushians. This has boosted their aspects appropriately. All right, so I know we're a little bit late on the finish time here, but I did want to try and get to opening the Creeper Crowded Descent. Leaves, flowers, and thorns, especially thorns. So we'll just unlock it right away here, and we'll spend the rest of the day talking with Serena Blackwood. It's always so very strange to be back. Thank you again for taking on the place. If there's an incident card active, you can discuss it, or just leave the slot empty and offer a consultation. So I always wonder, is it possible to talk with her? Huh. Now, presumably she'll visit on her own anyway, but in this case, we will definitely go for the tutoring. My visitor can teach me the rudiments of this dry language. After tutoring you, the visitor will leave, even if they arrived on other business. So this is the right call here. Again, we brought her to the house, so she should still be drawn as part of the event anyway if she's intended for it. And more importantly, this is going to start unlocking the Tree of Wisdoms for us. So I believe Fusine I normally put in the Hushery slot. Whether that's appropriate for the archaeologist, we will decide at the time. But I think that is a good place to wrap up for today. So we've got one more room opened up. We are beginning our path through the Tree of Wisdoms. I don't think there's going to be too much that unlocks just with the Fusine, but we're at least sort of moving in the correct direction. If I can, getting Fraser in would be nice. I think what I will try and do is maybe... You know, I'll probably get the fear now that I think of it. If I get the fear, then I can write I can write a letter using that memory. I think that basically scuttles my plans for a salon in spring, but we should still be able to do one in summer. So I think maybe just getting these fundamentals down would be a good start. And the real question mark, I suppose, is the Arthur Moore invitation. But we can worry about that later. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.